Welcome back to the watch list. Crypto, Bitcoin. Amazing, right? It's up nearly 140% year over year. It's coming off those 52-week highs just a couple of weeks ago. It's really pushing towards those. The SEC decision on the Spot Bitcoin ETF is front and center. Let's talk all about this. James Koutoulas is with us, founder of Typhon Capital Management, president and co-founder of the Commodity Customer Coalition, and Todd Groth, head of research at Coindesk Indices. Thank you both for being with us. Todd, I'll start with you. The big picture here, we also had ETF for Ethereum, too, which brought some optimism over the past couple of weeks, too. Where do we stand on all this, and how optimistic are you feeling on crypto in general? Todd.
Well, yeah, I guess I always start with there's never a dull moment in crypto. And although the Sam Altman OpenAI news over the weekend does make us feel like we're sort of competing here for mind share, it always does keep things interesting, especially when BlackRock had the Ethereum Spot ETF filing last week, which is very positive, and it shows further commitment to digital assets from one of the, if not the largest asset manager globally. And it's then doubling down that we're with the heft of that institutional might to push forward for a spot ETF. If you look at the discount in prices relative to net asset values of some of the older spot trusts that trade on the pink sheets, we have NAV spreads converging towards NAV. The Grayscale GBTC trust, for instance, is now at about 10% discount, much tighter than it has been over the last 2 years or so. So all this is showing a lot of interest in the space. We've seen a lot of inflows as well, 8 consecutive weeks of consecutive inflows from CoinShares data, and overall it's supportive for the asset class. It really is a question of, it's a question of not if, but just a matter of when we'll get a spot ETF.
Right, and there really is that feeling. I'd say most people probably agree with you, because I'm hearing more and more about that. James, I'm curious, do you agree that we will get a spot Bitcoin ETF? And how, Todd used the phrase, never a dull moment in this area. Should everybody have crypto in their portfolios? Is this something that we'd be missing out on if we weren't following? And when we talk about the moves that we've seen in crypto, and it's been a little less volatile sometimes than even the market itself.
Yeah, I think a BTC spot ETF looks imminent at this point. About a month or so ago, the DC Appellate Court ruled that the SEC's denial of the Grayscale trust, the ETF conversion, was, quote, arbitrary and capricious. And legally, that is one of the most deferential courts to the administrative agencies. So that's hugely bullish for the potential of an ETF to get approved. So, the SEC is engaged in this unconstitutional regulation by enforcement strategy and has really been trying to really damage the space and prevent wide-scale adoption. But it looks like that's going to be imminent regardless. In terms of should everybody own crypto? Probably not, right? I mean, you've got to always look at suitability. Crypto is very volatile. It's very cyclical. There's no assurances it's going to ultimately be successful. And you've got to look at people's cash flow needs. Like, can they withstand the volatility? Do they understand the technology? Without an active ETF, I think it's tough for like a grandma to try to manage a Coinbase account or like a self-custody wallet. But, I definitely think a BTC ETF will make that easier for a lot of non-tech savvy people. And, I think more aggressive investors with long-term time horizons, I do think crypto makes a lot of sense.
There it is. So if you have a long-term time horizon, it makes a lot of sense. And that was a very fair answer, because it's not necessarily for everyone. But if you're young and you think there's a place for this, and Todd, how would you recommend folks, because you do a lot of research and all the different products, what seems to be working or very popular for folks? I'm not saying that you're giving recommendations on what to buy or not to buy, but what seems to work for folks more easily, whether it's Bitcoin or Ethereum or all the other kinds of coins?
I think generally, when we think about allocations in a broader portfolio, the advice of roughly about 1 to 5% in a stock bond mix seems to get to what it does is we're really, if we think about a weight like that, that is commensurate with the higher levels of volatility of the asset class relative to stocks and relative to bonds. So that kind of gets you into a portfolio allocation where it won't, that weight won't sort of wag the rest of your portfolio dog. And that seems to balance over a period of time. It really, though, it comes down to what is your view longer term of both Bitcoin, both Ethereum that are gaining even more adoption, more network effects relative to fiat currencies. We are sort of seeing this newer narrative in Bitcoin well, not really newer. We're going back to this idea of Bitcoin being more of a real asset, like a digital gold. And with that, be part of your real asset allocation. Real assets, as in tips, gold, Bitcoin, real estate. Those assets that have much more preserved your purchasing power over time. So roughly speaking, the 1 to 5% sort of gets you to take into account the volatility of the asset historically relative to stocks and bonds.
Yes. All right, got to leave it right there. Todd Groth of Coindesk Indices. James Koutoulas, thank you so much, of Typhon Capital Management.